You know, I think it's of course very difficult. So props to you for getting through it. And you know, it's a very even though it's so difficult, it's very pleasant to listen to because it's always this. It's very much reminiscent of kind of like a dance. I know it's 9/16. I mean, it's you feel it in 3/4, and I think that sometimes, especially when you have this 30-second notes. Of course, I know it's very difficult, but it's not. It's important to not lose sight of the dance-like nature. It's something really that you can swing yourself to. The audience. It's very obvious that it's it's music that it's very flowing and that you can swing to, and I think that sometimes we can kind of think a bit more about that. Number two, I think also sometimes, especially, I very much appreciate how you play these. And I think you have a nice light touch to them in general. But sometimes, with these, I think you can sing them a bit more, especially when you got into the middle here. But never lose the energy of the dance. Sinfonias, there are 3 voices, right? In order to make sure that you can hear all 3 voices, you kind of need to approach them in a different way. You need to approach each voice in a different way. So, because your right hand is already with this kind of beautiful, very beautiful touch, very beautiful soft touch. If you play the left hand in the same way, it's not very clear, the different voices. Do you know what I mean? So you paint this one maybe with pointillism, you pointillism, or I don't know, you use crayons to draw the top line, but you use maybe a thicker paintbrush to draw the lower line. Does that make sense? Just so you can hear a bit more clearly. Yes, brilliant, amazing. And then try not to do the accent on the trill. Make sure it's part of the phrase. Not. maybe a bit more thick. Oh wait. Just keep that in mind. Let's try from here. And then we're suddenly in D major, right? So the piece begins in B minor, but maybe sadder or something. This is something that's maybe, in a sense, much more relieving. So maybe from here, if that's easier, wherever is easier to begin. Sections like this. Try to, I think, it can be more interesting if you try to find sort of some dialogue between these different. Maybe this is one thing, and again, character A. Between the different kind of, so that there's a bit of a dialogue. So same thing here. Yeah, this one, of course, more intense, right? Major, minor. Whatever the notes are, but just beat is one thing, another thing, one thing, another thing. From there. Let's see how to replay. Always the third beat, I think you can kind of use it a bit to, use the momentum a bit to help you propel always to the next harmony. The third beat is very important here. And then third beat. Does that make sense? And then you have the. make up the cadence at the end. Do you know what the cadence is? You know, at the end. There's so much going on with all three voices, and they're coming together for the first time. So not too unsubstantial. With a bit more substance and feel. Yeah, and listen to how the left hand it resolves. Yeah, not too soft because you don't really. It's not very clear exactly, you know, kind of what's going on. Always at the cadence is very, very important not to rush them and to make sure that the cadences are very, very clear. And then that's where we resolve. Does that make sense? One more time from just these last two parts. Play more. Continue until yes, here until the very end. Not too soft, the 5 chord. Yes, and then you resolve after. Does that make sense? Because this is still kind of tension. Da da dee dum da. And you hold your breath almost. You wait until the very end for it to come back to a singular octave. Does that make sense? Great. Thank you so much.